appoint a magistrate to be a Deputy Chief Magistrate of the local court of New South Wales. Now I, the Honourable Margaret Beasley, AC KC, the Governor aforesaid, in pursuance of the power and authority vested in me in that behalf, do, with the advice of the Executive Council of New South Wales, hereby appoint you, the said Michael David Antrum, being a person qualified to be so appointed, to be a Deputy Chief Magistrate of the local court of New South Wales on and from the 28th day of October 2024, given under my hand and the public seal of the said state, this 18th day of September 2024. Margaret Beasley, Governor. By Her Excellency's command, Michael Daly, Attorney General.
Executive Officer, do you have the form of oath? Do you have the Bible upon which Magistrate Antrum will take the oaths? Okay, stand up again. Magistrate Antrum, will you now take the oath of allegiance and the judicial oath?
I, Michael David Antrum, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty, King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law, so help me God. I, Michael David Antrum, do swear that I will well and truly serve our Sovereign Lord King Charles III in the office of Deputy Chief Magistrate for the State of New South Wales, and I will do right to all manner of people after the laws and usages of the State of New South Wales without fear or favour, affection or ill will. So help me God.
I will now certify the oaths after you've signed you there and there, as having been taken before me this day. The form of oaths will be returned to the Executive Officer to be filed in the appropriate records, and I now return the Bible, which will also be suitably inscribed and returned to Deputy Chief Magistrate Antrum as a memento of this occasion. Deputy Chief Magistrate Antrum, on behalf of all the members of the local court, I welcome you back. Your natural effervescence, your friendly and collegial nature, and your wit and wisdom have been missed. I'm sure the court will benefit much from your skill and your commitment to service and the administration of justice. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honour. Can I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and future. And of course I acknowledge Aboriginal colleagues and friends here this morning. Chief Magistrate Allen, thank you for the invitation to address the court this morning. And Your Honour, Magistrate Antrum, welcome you here on this special day on behalf of the Bar and the people of New South Wales. I thank you for your continued service of this court. I welcome your wife Pip and your children Benjamin, Marilyn, Tess and Yara, along with their families. Also present is your mother, Jeanette Antrum, OAM, and your brother Peter and sister-in-law Duffy. Sadly missing today is your father David, but Your Honour, we know he's watching. And there are many friends and colleagues joining us in person and watching online to celebrate, and many people have provided anecdotes to help tell your story today. Your Honour, you were born in Parramatta. Your childhood was spent in Borkham Hills. Your father David was, as they called them back then, a 10-pound pom, a Yorkshireman who was excited to come far across the globe to Australia to own some land and find some fun. You found that land and fun and sunshine and also a beautiful wife, Jeanette, a teacher. And together they raised you and your younger brother, Peter. Your life in Borkham Hills was sporty. Soccer in winter, tennis and cricket in the summer, but music was your great passion. Although by your own admission, you weren't exactly a virtuoso pianist. So you abandoned the ivories for guitar because you felt that you could fake that better. You recall that it was the combination of the bands and their songs in the 80s that really took hold of you as a teenager. The new romantic scene grabbed you and you confessed to adoring the likes of Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet and Simple Minds. No Midnight Oil there you are, I noticed. British bands with big hair and makeup singing about foreign locations and melodrama on some large scale and in video clips on large bridges. It was also fashionable at the time, and you admit that you joined in with gusto, adorning your image. I find this hard to believe, but I can't question the speechwriter. Adorning your image with glamorous frills, satin, silk and velvet. You now admit that your flashy looks turned heads in suburbia and maybe irked a few of your peers in Borkham Public School, then Muirfield High School. Your flamboyance, you say, sometimes made it hard to fit in, so you decided to stand up for yourself by learning karate. You were determined to be yourself and you loved your independence. This meant focusing on things that interested you. You were precocious and excelled at humanities, but your favourite subject was agriculture. It meant spending lots of time on the school farm where you loved the outdoor lifestyle, seeing how things grew and were nurtured and developed. This would turn into a lifelong passion. Again, Your Honour, by your own admission, what hasn't been a lifelong passion is the law, and then you've said you fell into it somewhat accidentally. And whilst you're a self-deprecating sort of person, and that can likely qualify your humble explanation, the story of how you got into law does have the makings of a chart-topping new romantic hit. You first attended UTS to study communications, and upon graduating in 1988, you worked as a journalist and in media relations. Your life was going well. You had a good job, great girlfriend, and a brilliant group of friends. Then you recall the girl dropped you. To adopt the 1980s parlance, she didn't want to go around with you anymore and took your entire social circle with her. This romantic failure led you to determine there was only one solution: go back to university and create a new friendship group. You applied to UTS and started studying for a Bachelor of Laws. But the Michael Antrum soundtrack doesn't end there. When asked if you enjoyed studying the law, came your reply: I don't think I did, really. But you were living in the Blue Mountains at the time, and you travelled into Sydney on your Honda CB250 that you had to crank start down the hill. It was hard work. You were studying 3 nights a week while trying to earn a living, and at times you felt like you were just trying to stay awake. But you did good work, including helping to run the Do the Right Thing campaign to help keep Australia clean. You graduated in 1993 with a Bachelor of Laws, and then shortly thereafter a graduate diploma in legal practice. You describe yourself as not typical fodder for the big solicitors of Sydney when searching for a job. There were no lawyers in your family. You had no legal connections, really. You had never been in a court until you went to university. I'm sure your mum and dad were happy about that last fact. You said that you took the first position that was offered to you. As it turned out, the location was a game changer for you in many ways, at Dubbo. This meant you could learn on the job while experiencing the rugged beauty of the Australian landscape. It also affirmed your affinity for smaller communities, regional communities. You love that they do things together and face challenges in a different way, and you admire the volunteer spirit of rural Australia. You joined in by becoming a volunteer firefighter and being part of the local community, which you say was wonderfully rewarding. You worked at R.J. Nolan & Co. in Dubbo before moving to Sweeney Waterford Lawyers in Narrabri. And this laid the groundwork for nearly 16 years of practising law across metropolitan and regional New South Wales. You left the bush in 1997 to serve as the Director and Principal Solicitor of the National Children's and Youth Law Centre until 1999, where your focus on children's law was impactful. During this time, you launched the Law Stuff website, providing young people with legal rights information across Australia. Returning to private practice in Dubbo, you worked as a solicitor at North and Badgerry, specialising in criminal law and cementing your interest in social justice. In 2001, you became legal counsel for the University of Western Sydney, advising on complaints, administrative law and partnerships. And in 2004, you focused on mediation and arbitration as part of your own general practice. Around this time, you also became an officer in the Australian Army Corps, serving in certain operations and mentoring on ethics and operations law. You then took on the role of General Counsel for the New South Wales Police Force, commanding a team of 50 and advising on matters such as civil liability, coroner's inquiries and police conduct. In January 2001, the local Court of New South Wales came calling and you were sworn in as a magistrate in January of that year. Much like your studies, you stated that you have no idea how you became to sit on the bench and can't say you even remember even putting in an application. But people were watching, you were appointed, and you've thrived, Your Honour. You've loved the challenge and you've appreciated the support of the profession. You've served many communities and they've experienced your passion and expertise in ensuring that justice is open to everyone. You've stated that these are the hallmarks of our democracy and it starts at the local court. Since your appointment, you've presided over many matters throughout New South Wales in courts in places like Wagga, Queanbeyan, Gosford and Sydney. Each place, each community has been rewarded by your considerable skill and compassion, your firm, quick thinking and bring clarity to all matters. Colleagues have been rewarded by your friendship and they know you to be kind, genuine and an excellent mentor, particularly for younger people. They also note that you can escalate the fun in any situation and they say that you're not nicknamed Michael Martini for nothing. Your serious management skills and ability to inspire others have seen you become a member of the Education Committee and Orientation Team for new magistrates at the local court. You're a magistrate of high repute and respect, which has led you to becoming the Deputy President of the Mental Health Review Tribunal. It's a position you love. You understand the responsibility of it and bring a serious commitment to service there. Your purpose is simple. You want to do the right thing and make sure the rules are followed. The local court has seen the benefits of your motivation, as have many other institutions that you've served. This will continue as Deputy Chief Magistrate, and I know you're excited to be working with your old friend, Chief Magistrate Allen. This expanded role recognises your extensive leadership and knowledge. Many have offered congratulations and all believe it to be excellent and well-deserved, as do I. Your family share these thoughts and join the chorus of congratulations. You wouldn't be here without the support, without their support. Pip is your wonderful partner in all of this, and together you've raised 4 wonderful children. The bush still captures your heart. Pip shares your passion, and there's nothing you both like more than going camping and walking. Music is a constant, but you haven't been able to convince the kids on the merits of Simple Minds. This appointment today recognises your outstanding contribution to the law, as well as your leadership and commitment to community and to this court. You're an outstanding candidate. This is thoroughly well deserved, and I thank you for your continued service to the people of New South Wales. Please the court.
Mr McGrath.
Thank you, Your Honour. May it please the court. I too acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, the traditional owners of the land on which this court stands, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I acknowledge and extend my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are with us here today. Your Honour, I am privileged to be here on behalf of the Solicitors of New South Wales to wish Your Honour well in your appointment as the Deputy Chief Magistrate of the local Court of New South Wales. Your Honour, I ask you to take a moment to look at this court, to reflect on where you are, to remember having to kickstart an old Honda CB 650 down Bowen Mountain Drive in the middle of winter. It was, in Your Honour's words, the riskiest thing you've ever done in your life. This came after having to give up your car and your employment to undertake the College of Law, all while trying to maintain a mortgage. We are a long way from that moment on many levels. However, Your Honour, there were over 400,000 matters commenced in the local court last year. As Deputy Chief Magistrate, you may now have a new riskiest thing you've ever done in your life to consider. That said, prior to this ceremony, you have also been on a wanderlust odyssey on a motorbike around parts of New South Wales, in what Your Honour said was perhaps a slow-burning midlife crisis. You have continued riding motorbikes since the economic necessity long since passed, and so perhaps risk is in the eye of the beholder. I do know that while the tasks of this court, big as they may be, practically, legally and philosophically, while they may be very large, I do believe this is an appointment that people will not doubt. People will not see the risk in this appointment at all. That does not mean to say it is stayed. I mean, there are the motorbikes, and you're also, Your Honour, has, say, a tragic and, as characterised by the Attorney-General, almost embarrassing interest in 1980s music. In Your Honour's words, not mine. You have a wonderful wife and 4 children. Through the accounts of those who know you, there was a clear picture of a devoted father and a very fun father. And your career prior to the bench had adventure, curiosity, legal excellence and experience across almost all major areas that law covers. Much is already on the record from Your Honour's previous swearing-in speech in 2011, which took place in this very room. Your broad experience as a lawyer, which took place in your advanced legal skills, as well as your undoubted strength of character and integrity, are well attested. There has been extreme dignity and stoicism in responding to severe intimidation and assault too. And there have been high-profile cases, including assisting with legislation to outlaw bikie gangs. It is not the life of one who is intellectually risk-averse. What was not placed on the record is Your Honour's slightly enigmatic approach to order and chaos. The juxtaposition between struggling with the clockwork precision of, say, Swiss trains when visiting your wife's family, balanced against a professional personality who likes the metre of law, the routine of court, a place where everybody knows what the rules are, and indeed, being a major in the Army Reserves. Yet one who also longs for a wide open ochre desert or big gangly bushland. And as one district court judge said, he has this very clever knack, like George Carlin, of alleviating dark situations with good humour. Perhaps it boils down to consistency and fairness. These are a huge part of Your Honour's approach to life and to the law. Yet, Your Honour, I ask you to again look at this court and to reflect on where you are. From your first job in law, a move to Dubbo with a small firm in criminal law and general practice, as we've heard from the Attorney-General. You'd never been to a courtroom when you arrived. On one of your first days, your principal, Ray Nolan, asked you to head down to the Dubbo local court. Suddenly, there you were, as Your Honour said, in a shiny, ill-fitting suit with a cheap, very cheap briefcase, trying to work out how to fill in legal aid forms. And very quickly, the absolute value, the priceless value of collegiality, particularly at the bar table, became very clear. I know it was valuable that first year in Dubbo. That spirit is alive in the solicitor profession today, at the bar table and the Law Society of New South Wales, because the profession of law only works if people help each other. And I see it continued to this bench in Your Honour, and many other magistrates that I've had the good fortune of seeing sworn in. There is a lot of collegiality in this court. It is impressive, and it helps hold the practice of law apart from the drudgery and desolation of other industries. This is why the profession knows that when we appear in Your Honour's court, the number one thing, beyond getting the law right, is always courtesy and respect for everybody. I'm very pleased to say that solicitors see this in Your Honour. And we also know every magistrate in this court must be across so many moving parts, the legal arguments, what's happening in the room, who's coming in the door, is the list moving, is the prosecutor ready to proceed, making sure an unrepresented litigant hasn't made a grievous mistake, and being alert to the needs of a vulnerable witness or worried about whether the interpreter has turned up. It is every day, over 100 times a day very often. It's an avalanche. It is not, as Your Honour pointed out, like this bozo's just sitting up there doing not very much. No, to maintain calm on the surface, there's a lot of paddling going on underneath. Thankfully, now Your Honour brings 14 years of judicial experience to your role as Deputy Chief Magistrate. The depth of serving in courts throughout the state, including Wagga Wagga, Queanbeyan, Gosford, and here in the Downing Centre. And you have been a leader in this court and held a leadership role in the Mental Health Review Tribunal for the past 2 years as Deputy President. Your Honour is calm in this court, having developed extensive judicial instincts and benchcraft with the help of many great leadership teams and colleagues. This extends back to being a solicitor in Dubbo, Narrabri and Sydney, to working with the National Children's and Youth Law Centre as General Counsel at the New South Wales Police Force, among other roles. Your Honour has shown a dedication to the rule of law that is unquestionable. Nevertheless, I know this appointment initially was a somewhat unwelcome surprise. When the phone call came about being a DCM, Your Honour was navigating a very windy road in Kangaroo Valley. The line kept dropping in and out, and after the call, you turned to your wife and said, "Did they just say DCM or it's the end?" You spent a very uncertain week whether you had been sacked or been promoted. So later, after some frightening anticipation, you were, in your own words, variously amazed, gobsmacked, honoured and happy. So, Your Honour, I ask you to finally one time look around at this court and reflect on where you are and where you have arrived. Whilst this may well be the end of some parts of your career, it is celebrated by the solicitor profession, by fellow judicial officers and the Law Society of New South Wales. For Your Honour is now a Deputy Chief Magistrate of the local court of New South Wales. On behalf of the solicitors of New South Wales, my sincere congratulations, Your Honour, as the court pleases.
Magistrate Antrum.
Thank you. Well, I'm rethinking it all now. 400,000 matters, did you say? The Honourable Michael Daly, Attorney General of New South Wales, the Honourable Justice Julie Ward, President of the New South Wales Court of Appeal, the Honourable Justice Sarah Huggett, Chief Judge of the District Court of New South Wales, His Honour Judge Michael Allen, Chief Magistrate of New South Wales, Magistrate Huntsman, President of the Mental Health Review Tribunal, and I know that there are many other judicial officers. I can see you all. Thank you for your attendance today. You do me a great honour by being here. Did I mention, and the many other distinguished guests here today, ladies and gentlemen. We're all guests on this big, magical, beautiful land of Australia, and I too want to pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I want to thank them and their ancestors for maintaining and preserving this part of country for so long. It's difficult to properly and fully comprehend that contribution to all of our well-being, but I'm certain that this country nourishes us and adds resonance to our work. Walama is the Gadigal word meaning to return or come back. And that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm returning to my occupational home at the local court of New South Wales. My self-imposed exile to the Mental Health Review Tribunal was going swimmingly. I had freedoms unknown to magistrates. I could get a coffee at any time I felt like it. If I wanted to stand up at any time of the day, I could do so. There were some real downsides, however. The mental fatigue that comes with unleashing two magistrates, the indefatigable Carolyn Huntsman and I, into an environment ready for change. We were both bound into the tribunal premises at Gladesville each morning, ready to exhaust each other with our great new ideas. Seriously, the staff at the tribunal thought that we were possessed. And let me tell you, they have actual experience of such things. I know my team are out there watching, the forensic team. A big shout out to you all. I leave the Mental Health Review Tribunal professionally enriched and with huge admiration and respect for the work that it does. It is a vital institution for New South Wales. This happy interregnum was brutally cut short with the call for a return to duty, although at least I thought it was. Mr McGrath has referred to the confusion that existed at that time. When I told my wife, Pip, that I was possibly returning to the court, her muscle memory kicked in and she immediately started packing boxes. It was a little confusing there for a while. There was Judge Michael Allen talking to me, Michael Antrum, about some thoughts that the Attorney-General, Michael Daly, was expressing. The Secretary of DCJ, Mr Michael Tidball, who's also here today, was also very much in the picture. Thank heavens for Mr Phil Kelly. Mr Attorney, thank you for your personal attendance here today and for your kind words, and I really do appreciate them. And Mr Brett McGrath, thank you, and to all of the solicitors over the years that I have counted as colleagues and friends. I don't think anyone will mistake my career progression for an upward trajectory. In the past, I've typically taken a new job which is about at the same level as the one that I was leaving. The pay tends to be roughly equal, or usually less than the one I had before. And what I then do is to use CPI to claw my way forward over a number of years. This regulatory inching forward is much less exciting than the Christmas bonus or performance review uplift, but it's usually more dependable. Indeed, a colleague recently remarked that my career is much less about climbing the corporate ladder and more of a square dance. It's step forward, move to the side, throw your arms about, and then move back. But of course, I'm very honoured to accept this appointment as a Deputy Chief Magistrate. I'm under no illusion as to the task ahead. Liz Truss said as much when she was appointed UK Prime Minister, 49 days before she resigned. I hope my sense of the priorities for the local court are more soundly based. To properly develop the local court's mission and program, you have to look outwards. A purely managerialist approach to running a court is doomed to failure. Courts are not businesses, they're not even close. But there is always scope for efficiencies and using data to map and plan for the effective delivery of court time to court users. When citizens attend court, they are often juggling difficult work commitments, childcare, transport issues, mental health conditions, and myriad other life stressors that pose formidable challenges to being at a court before 9:30. We have an obligation to do the best we can in concert with the other stakeholders, such as registry staff and the legal profession, to deliver up some progress to or finality in the matter that they have before the court. A simple adjournment on our part can be an extraordinary impost on their part. My formative years at the court were heavily influenced by the outstanding counsel and leadership of then Chief Magistrate Judge Henson, who's here today, then Deputy Chief Magistrate, now Senior Judge of the New South Wales Drug Court, Judge Motley, and then DCM and now Judge O'Brien. I'm delighted that they are all here, either today in person or via AVL. It's good to see you. And it has to be said that the Chief Magistrate, Judge Allen, was also a significant mentor in that mix as well. It wasn't always pleasant. I remember some of the discussions up here, and it felt very, sometimes, much like high school when you get in trouble. But that's all right. Moulds you, moves you forward. Each of them held firmly the belief that while the local court may be at the entry level of justice in New South Wales, it is for that reason that magistrates, be they at the Downing Centre, Parramatta, Orange, Young or Albury, needed to be on top of their game. The effective delivery of a bail decision is just as important to the local court defendant as it is to the Supreme Court applicant. And it doesn't matter whether you ascended the steps off Liverpool Street, Sydney, or swung the court doors off Brisbane Street, Dubbo. This same belief still burns strongly in me, and I'm quietly proud to be a part of a court that is the only experience of formal justice that the majority of courtgoers in New South Wales will ever have. We live in a world now where deep fake imagery allows anyone with a computer to alter what is apparently in a photograph, to remove persons, to add persons, to delete or alter significant details. Courts around the world are grappling with these altered realities. How do you test the evidence? What is its probative value? Are the corroborative facts now more important? What do you do if the evidence turns out to be demonstrably corrupted? Thankfully, the tools for assessing evidence have been available for and modified over centuries. However, the pace of adaptation is perhaps at one of those historical pivot points. The ability to create false narratives through online media, where the dispossessed, the vulnerable, the damaged and the downright ignorant revel in late-night online festivals of disinformation, lies and distortion. For the local court, one manifestation of this is the insidious creep of so-called sovereign citizen nonsense. I say so-called because these people are neither sovereign, by definition, and they eschew citizenship of any recognisable nation. Some are merely unfortunate drags on the court list, but others are positively dangerous. For those magistrates dealing with this kind of social disruption, Judge Allen's reference to the local court being the great shock absorber is most apt. The local court sees it all: the magnificence of rehabilitation, the wholesale misery of drug addiction, the desperation of poverty and homelessness, and the hopelessness of internet ideology. It is hard, hard work, but it is important more than ever. Chief Justice Gageler's recent State of the Australian Judicature, I've been practising that word for weeks, address referred to research showing a comparatively high degree of confidence in Australian courts, about 80%. This confidence is hard-won currency, and it is vital that the local court do its bit to preserve that legacy. That means honest adherence to the legislation, even if we don't agree with it. It means sensible and judicial use of discretion. It means respectful and courteous interactions in court with everybody who has a matter before it, and that includes our registry staff. It means respect for the decisions and guidance of higher courts who must hear appeals from our decisions or pronounce the correct interpretation of statutory instruments. It means leaving our biases and privilege at the chamber's door. And it means always, always acting in a manner that bestows dignity on our office, on our court and our communities. Saying these things is very easy. Doing them in real time, in real courts, is much harder. In judicial circles, the word delay is said in a hushed, shamefaced tone. It is our constant enemy. It corrodes that confidence I spoke of, and it is the dead weight we all carry around with us. We all know that feeling when we have to tell a bail-refused defendant that their matter will not be heard until next year sometime. There's no magic bullet for delay, but I do know that it is high on the Chief Magistrate's list of priorities. I suspect that a multi-pronged approach is necessary rather than any single one procedural amendment. Judicial bullying has been very much on the radar recently, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. Bullying of legal practitioners by judges and magistrates, bullying of judges and magistrates by legal practitioners and self-represented litigants, and even bullying of judicial officers and others by judicial officers themselves. Courts are robust environments. You do need a thick skin to regularly appear in them. However, there's no excuse for unwarranted conduct that has no other purpose other than to humiliate, offend or belittle. There's no place for that in courts. We must model the behaviours that we expect in return, and in particular, that zone from the bar table to the bench must be a golden one, where respect and due courtesy infuse every action, word and gesture. This is one way in which courts will hold on to that hard currency of confidence and the trust that can only come from integrity and consistency. Having said that, my time as a magistrate has, in the main, been a happy one, buttressed by the solid camaraderie of my fellow magistrates. One of the principal reasons I'm grateful for this opportunity is because it means I'll be able to interact again with this very dedicated group of judicial officers. I've been blessed, I'm getting to the end, I have been blessed to have had the support of many families in my career and life more generally. There is my mental health review tribunal family most recently. And for many years I've been a reserve officer in the Australian Army Legal Corps. I know that there are many fellow officers here today. Thank you for your attendance. As recruitment never tire of telling everyone that will listen, the skills that you learn there invaluable in your civilian career. Although I do have to indicate that nowhere else have I reached my terminal rank so quickly. I suspect this may have something to do with some results in the exam on the Majors course. The question was something like, calculate the range of various different calibre artillery guns. Now, this was information that I had not been graced with prior to the exam, or if I had, not unreasonably, considered that if a legal officer was making decisions about what artillery to use, then things had become dire indeed. It was either that or my use of elephants in a modern military manoeuvre for the practical exam. You see, the army manual I had been provided still contained all of the logistics for the transport and deployment of African and Asian elephants, probably a hangover from the days of the British Raj. The task was to attack a fortified enemy position. Lest anyone consider I was not taking things seriously, I had calculated the time it would take for the animals to travel 3.5 kilometres and the amount of hay that would be required to nourish them for their important task. Just in case you're wondering, I opted for the faster African elephant. The training officer, aghast, asked me what military element I was utilising, and I replied, surprise, sir. He responded, how do you figure that out? I said, I think the enemy will be bloody surprised in this day and age to see a bunch of elephants coming over the ridge, sir. Anyway, needless to say, there was no ducks of course there, and that's where my promotions ended. I'm delighted to see, as I say, members of the ADF here, and I acknowledge the very complex and difficult legal work that you regularly undertake. I have my judicial family, some of whom I've already acknowledged. I can see many of them in the group here today. The bond of the bench is a strong one, and I'm grateful to all those magistrates and judges who have supported me, counselled me, encouraged me and corrected me over the years. For those I haven't mentioned by name, you know who you are. One thing I have noticed since my initial appointment in 2011 is that the appellate jurisdictions, the district and Supreme Courts, are quicker to recognise and acknowledge the sometimes crushing workload of the local court in their reasons when reviewing the decisions of magistrates. Can I use this rare opportunity to say to those honourable courts that magistrates do notice these acknowledgements and they very much appreciate them. I hope that we, in return, recognise the extraordinary stresses that are placed upon them. The camaraderie and professionalism of my earlier legal family, the solicitors and barristers of this state, I know that the Chief Magistrate and I, along with the other DCMs, are keen to forge an open communication channel so that the legal professionals in the local court are able to do their work for their clients as effectively as possible. And finally, my actual family. Now, I spoke to my eldest daughter yesterday. I said, I hope I don't cry this time because it's such a bad look. But anyway, my son Benjamin and his wife Elise have their newborn Lara. I don't know where the cameras are. They're watching. My first grandchild. They can't be here in person today due to that very recent arrival. It's my first, as I say, my first grandchild. I know they're watching, and hello, Lara. Remember, I'm the best. My wonderful eldest daughter, Madeline, and her partner, Leon. My beautiful twin daughters, Tess and Yara, with their partners, respectively, Oscar and Ollie. Tess had to get a leave pass from Hornsby Hospital this morning to leave her bed to be here. She's not contagious, it's okay. But thank you, Tess, that you made it. I hope the headaches are down. My ever-supportive mother, Jeanette, who will be especially missing my father, David, today, as I am, and my younger brother, Peter, and his wife, Duffy. And Patricia, Pip, my impossibly gorgeous Swiss bride, who moved to Sydney, then to Wagga Wagga, then to Queanbeyan, back to Sydney, then to Kangaroo Valley, and now partially back to Sydney again, to support my career as a magistrate. Try explaining to a family in Zurich that you're moving to Wagga Wagga. Thank you, Pip. I was way above my pay grade when I asked you to join me in Australia, and there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not grateful that you said yes. So now, back to the business of delivering justice fairly and consistently to the people of New South Wales, to keep that hard currency of trust and confidence in the bank. Sincerely, thank you to you all for your attendance here today. I promise you I will give this great privilege of being a Deputy Chief Magistrate my best shot.
Thank you, Magistrate Antrum. Before I adjourn, I just remind you all through the door on your right to join Deputy Chief Magistrate Antrum for some tea and coffee and light refreshments. The court will now adjourn.